Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Ruben. Good morning.
Girl.
That's me. Good morning. Good morning. Bye. How are you doing? All righty, let me tell you what's happening around the world. What happened?
Mommy.
Yes, she's fine. She's wonderful. You've earned your place as her favorite. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Let me tell you what's happening around the world.
Gang.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I'm not involved. I didn't see any of the moi moi. It was just Rufai and Rufai's sister. But please, let me tell you what is happening around the world. Now, in an apparent sign of frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin, US President Donald Trump has promised to boost military aid to Ukraine. Now, during a lengthy cabinet meeting in Washington, D.C., Trump, who spoke to Putin on the phone last week for the 6th time in 6 months, used colorful language to describe his current dynamic with his Russian counterpart. Let's take a listen.
We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Now, about that military aid going to Ukraine. It was just a week ago that US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was sitting right next to Trump at the meeting, ordered the pause of missiles, including the Patriot interceptors and other ammunition being sent to Ukraine due to concerns over US military stockpile levels. But when Trump was asked about the pause by a reporter, he said that he didn't know who ordered it. Now, reports are now saying that the Pentagon did not inform US President Trump before making that announcement. That being said, Trump has hinted support for sanctions, or a bill for sanctions targeting Russia. Now, the US State Department has announced reciprocal visa changes for a group of countries, including Nigeria. So for Nigerian citizens planning a trip to the United States, most visas issued to Nigerian citizens will now be single entry visas valid for 3 months. Now, the update covers most non-immigrant and non-diplomatic visas and has been described by America as reciprocal, which implies Nigeria also offers the same visa restrictions for American citizens planning to travel to Nigeria. But that's actually not the case. Before now, Nigerians could receive non-immigrant visas from the US for up to 5 years, and that's what Nigeria offers Americans to this day. Now, Nigeria does boast an increasingly progressive visa process, most especially under this current administration. We know that in March, Nigeria launched its e-visa, which allows for the entire process to be done online without long wait times or in-person visits to embassies. It is an effort that promotes the ease of travel of investors, including Americans, into the country. Now, meanwhile, the US mission says it's working with Nigerian government to ensure Nigeria can meet its standard criteria, such as secure travel documents, the management of visa overstaying, and the sharing of relevant information. Now, the move does come off the back of the US banning citizens of 12 countries, 7 of them African, including Chad, Congo, and Sudan in June. And also earlier this week, the US Embassy right here in Nigeria did announce that all applicants for F, M, and J visas must have public social media accounts. Now, regarding the single entry 3-month visa for Nigerians, the changes are effective immediately, but do not affect any visas issued before the 8th of July 2025. And finally, Nigeria's Ogun State government has ramped up its drive for global investment by hosting members of the Brazilian business community at the Ogun State Investment Summit in Rio de Janeiro. On the sidelines of the recently concluded BRICS Summit, the Ogun State Governor, Prince Dakwa Abiodun, presented the state's Investment Opportunities Compendium, which offers a guide to the investors on how best to navigate Nigeria's fastest growing economy across a host of sectors, including oil and gas, tourism, and renewable energy. Now, Nigeria's federal government was represented at the summit by the Finance Minister and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, as well as Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who is, of course, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, as well as Nigeria's Foreign Minister, Yusuf Tugar, as was the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Cardoso. He gave a speech, as did all of the other ministers, except for Tugar, I believe. But again, just to show Ogun State putting itself on the international platform, and even in Brazil, making sure that investors know that they can come to Nigeria and invest. Well, Dr.
No, they
Rubin?
can come to
Ogun. Ogun specifically to invest.
Carry
invest.
governor me.
Well done to our governor. Dr. Rubin, what are your thoughts? Let's hear your thoughts before we move on.
Okay, yeah, these are very specific subjects. Number one, President Tinubu traveled with 5 governors. The governor of Ogun, the governor of Niger State, right?
Yes.
Farmer Bago, the governor of Ogun State, the governor of Lagos, yes. I thought I saw some Ulu there.
Yes.
And also the governor of Benue, Yasin Talia.
Yes.
You know, the objective is to talk about agriculture. Nigeria having very strong relationship with Brazil. However, the point to note here is the point I've always made, that President Tinubu is the chief foreign policy officer of the country. And for people who are always complaining, he's always traveling, how can he go from St. Lucia and go to Brazil? They are wrong. And I hope that one of these days, one of his officials will write about the gains of Tinubu's diplomacy. You know, that, well, I don't want to give them an idea there. Otherwise, I will send an invoice. But I think it's important to realize that. But the point I was trying to make is that it's not just the federal government. The president carries the states along.
Correct.
And in this particular regard, the Ogun State that you have singled out, our state,
Yes,
has done very well by organizing an Ogun State investment summit in Brazil,
Yes.
where Governor, well, maybe I'm being prophetic, where Governor Dapo Abiodun said, Ogun State is investment friendly. Ogun State is policy aligned, and that Ogun State will provide a business-friendly environment. I think the messaging was very strong, and I think that this investment opportunities aligns also with the federal government directive in terms of how, you know, making every part of Nigeria, every state, and strategically Ogun State, which is not just the gateway state, it's also a state that is being positioned by Governor Dapo Abiodun as the gateway to Nigeria's prosperity.
Would you look at that?
And people should note that. Ogun State as the gateway to Nigeria's prosperity. So, good outing for Nigeria, good outing for Ogun State. Now, on the issue of Ukraine, now you recall that President Trump, you know, had engaged with the Ukrainians and all that. He got concessions on rare earth materials, and even threatened at the time that the U.S. was willing to walk away because the two gladiators, Ukraine and Russia, were not ready to come together. And that was echoed also by his state secretary, you know. But at this point now, you know, the president of the U.S. now says, okay, we have to give these people the opportunity to defend themselves. Because if they are not allowed to defend themselves in Ukraine, Russia has been all over Ukraine in the last week. About 320 attacks on strategic sites. So Trump says, I will give them ammunition.
That's what he says, yes.
What is important, which I'll quickly outline, is peace, global peace.
Absolutely.
And President Trump, by saying we will help Ukraine, I see that he's very enthusiastic. He actually wants to get this Nobel Peace Prize, which,
can you blame him?
Which was the subject you brought yesterday.
Yes.
He wants to say, oh, I'm the one who has given them peace in Israel, in Congo, in whatever. But I think it's for the benefit of the international community that we have peace. Visa.
Thank you, Dr. Rubin.
Visa is based on the decision of the consular department and the government of the host country.
Agreed.
If Nigeria feels that, oh, this is not fair to our people, reciprocity is the name of the game in diplomacy. Nigeria too can issue the same policy. But this is a case of America at a time of isolationism, of provincialism.
Yes.
So the question is, how do other states react?
That is the question. Thank you
So
very much, Dr.
if
Rubin.
Nigeria doesn't
Agreed.
feel well, okay, we too can say, if you come here, don't stay here.
And we don't want that, do we, Rufai? Thank you so much, Dr. Rubin.
So, as regards Trump, I mean, I keep laughing at everybody in the world in this because it's an interesting time for the world. You have a tyrant, sort of like a leader that bullies everybody, and he claims to be, and he is the leader of the free world, not he claims to be the leader of the free world. And he says all sorts of things, and he backtracks on the things he says. And everybody does not hold him accountable. I've never seen America in such a state like this, only for few people. And today I'd like to give honorable mention to the likes of Ketanji Jackson Brown. I've been reading most of her dissent, and it's something you can publish a book by, because these are the people that are standing for the integrity of America. He said he was going to fix the Ukraine war in how many hours? Or in how many days?
He said on the first day, was it
In
the
the
first or
first day.
second days or something like that?
24
hours in the first day.
It has taken him months. He has failed
It's been
on
6
this.
months.
He has also done tackle when it comes to Ukraine. At first he said, I'm not giving them weapons so that they can hold their hands. And the next thing, he says, I'm going to give them. This is not a new weapon he's giving them, by the way. These were weapons approved by Biden already. Administration. And they said 30.
In fairness, at the NATO summit, he did talk, he talked to that Ukrainian journalist and did talk about wanting to give them weapons. It was Pete Hegseth that now came and said, we're going to stop sending weapons. And as you heard Donald Trump say, he doesn't know where that came from.
These were pre-approved weapons. 30 of these Patriot missiles were already approved by Biden administration. But he's not even giving them what was approved. He's giving them 10 Patriot missiles out of the 30 already pre-approved. The Trump trade, everything is trade for him comes into play. So he wants to use the remaining 20 to play ball with them and see who will pull out. They asked him if he's going to also sanction Russia. He said, yes, I'm also thinking about it.
Said so.
So Donald Trump has complicated this war more than ever before. People like a war criminal, and he's not convicted to be a war criminal, but somebody that's been looking for a war criminal like Benjamin Netanyahu can keep nominating him for Nobel Prize. The Pakistani Authority can keep nominating him for Nobel Prize. Probably, I don't know if the Congolese did it, but they can even nominate him for Nobel Prize, despite the fact that the mineral deal is to favor some of his cronies in America. So that's why I say the joke is on the world in general. And this person sees, and the world sees this man and they say nothing about him. So he has pivoted again. Maybe before he said he's not giving Ukraine weapons, now he's giving them. He's a taco man, he's taco.
Then what were you thinking? Thank you.
Trump always
Chickens out.
Allegedly.
Apparently.
Allegedly.
Apparently. I'll begin with BRICS because I'm extremely passionate about BRICS, and I love the potential that BRICS offers. So I'm glad to see that Nigeria put their best foot forward, had a great outing at BRICS. Absolutely. Also, notably mentioned who was there was... Well, Ogun State tried. They tried. Don't worry. We have it in the works. So maybe next year Cross River State will also be there. So,
but not today.
No. Honestly, and all the governors that went there, it's such a fantastic outing. And Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was also there. It was a strong outing for Nigeria, and especially given what we're seeing with the global geopolitical shifting. I'm so glad to see that we're engaging with these other markets. Yeah. Now, especially to those who are criticizing the St. Lucia to BRICS movement, it was interesting to see that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also did something similar. He stopped in Trinidad and Tobago before going to Brazil for the BRICS summit. So maybe there's a trend we need to see there. But the other conversation around it is that we're also still preparing for the G20 summit that's taking place here on the African continent at the end of the year. And there's a lot to tap into for that as well, because you have members of BRICS who are also members of the G20. Now, very quickly to visa issues. I applaud Minister Tunji Ojo because he's made a great effort with regards to trying to sanitize the immigration process. But of all the visas I have in my passport, before I became a Nigerian resident, the Nigerian visa is the most difficult to get. They do give you single entry. It's usually 90 days. Single entry, 90 days is the standard. That's if you're not told. This is before. A lot of this still persisting in some embassies around the world. However, sometimes you're told there are no visa stickers. The process can be extremely opaque. You'll be asked to bring various documents. There isn't a standard format in some embassies, specifically that I've experienced, especially those on the African continent.
Yes, before the introduction of the e-visa.
No. Even as we speak now with the e-visa, there are people who are getting deported at the airport because the process for the e-visa is not yet streamlined. So there are some people. I know. I was working with my embassy just last week. We had 2 Zimbabweans who were deported at the point of entry because they applied through the e-visa system. They were given some sort of a confirmation that was not recognized at the immigration point when they landed. So there's still fine-tuning that needs to happen.
Yes.
So in the spirit of reciprocity, I think this is harsh. I think all of these things are conversations, diplomatic conversations that can be had. I don't think it's something that you just slap on a country and say, oh, we're being reciprocal. That's why diplomacy exists. That's why there are embassies and so forth. So people can sit down and say, listen, Americans are not happy with the 90-day single entry, which is the standard that you get when you apply for a Nigerian visa. Let's broaden this conversation and see how that goes. So,
time for that. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for your great submissions onto the World Brief. Let's take a look at papers now. As ever, it is a menu of politics on the front page of this day, which leads with the ADC saying President Tinubu's failure is the reason why Nigeria has not been invited to the White House as part of the US government's plan to host the presidents of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal for a high-level commercial talks that's actually supposed to be taking place today. Meanwhile, the APC hit back at the ADC, calling them morally wounded. Now, The Punch has interim national chairman of the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, Senator David Mark, saying the new coalition has no favorite presidential candidate, and that's amid reports that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who was the 2020... Abubakar Atiku and Peter Obi, as well as the former Minister of Transport, Rotimi Amechi, amongst others, there have been reports that they are all claiming to be the front runners for the party's ticket in the 2027 elections. Essentially, David Mark is telling them to hold their horses. To the Daily Trust, it leads with the campaign posters and billboards promoting President Tinubu's re-election bid in 2027 continuing to surface across Abuja, despite the fact that INEC is yet to release a timetable or lift the ban on political campaigns. The New Telegraph, it leads with the federal government formally setting 16 years as the minimum age for admission into Nigeria's tertiary institutions. That announcement came from Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, who reverses the mandate of his predecessor, which pegged the minimum age at 18. The Daily Independent quotes experts who say that Nigeria's plan to double its milk production from 700,000 to 1.4 million metric tons within 5 years is unrealistic. The ambitious goal is part of a broader strategy to reduce reliance on dairy imports, which currently cost Nigeria $1.5 billion every year. Very quickly, let's head over to the United Kingdom. Emmanuel Macron is saying that the United Kingdom and France have to shoulder the responsibility for regional peace. That's as the French president is in the middle of his 3-day state visit to the United Kingdom. Ladies and gents, we have 2 minutes. I'd love to hear your thoughts very quickly.
I yield the floor in those 2 minutes.
I think for me what stood out is the minimum age for university,
yes.
Which I don't think there should be a minimum age, to be honest with you. I think some children are exceptionally gifted and taken on a case-by-case scenario, I think they should be allowed to. If they're extremely gifted, it's rare, but it should be allowed.
No, okay, quickly. Yes. Just to respond to the people who have been saying, oh, President Tinubu has not been invited to the White House, and that some smaller countries have been invited, and that the reason is because President, please, can we stop demarketing our country? Nigeria has the largest population of persons in this continent called Africa. We are the most strategic country. 1 out of 5 Africans is a Nigerian, including present company, Adefemi Akinsanya, who has a dual citizenship.
But not to the United States.
Where?
Not with the United States.
Yeah, whether you have dual citizenship or not. You are our own, in addition to all the people, including the ones who claim it. So we are a very...
Processing mine.
Excuse me?
Are you processing mine?
Processing
my
what?
Citizenship.
Your citizen?
Yes.
No. You become a citizen.
It's coming.
One of the things we have in Nigeria, if you marry a Nigerian, you should be a citizen. You are good enough. You are good enough to go to a maternity ward once, twice. You will go the third time very soon because you are in an environment that encourages productivity. Why?
Don't mind me, but you've been productive enough. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Anyway, I haven't finished.
Have you?
So I'm saying that people should stop saying President Tinubu has not been invited. We are a sovereign state. President Trump, it is in his interest to engage and sit down with President Tinubu to look for also opportunities on a reciprocal basis with Nigeria. So the people who are saying, why is Nigeria not invited? No, it's not a comment. We are an important country, and we must support and promote our country.
As always.
Thank
you.
All right.